It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
There is no emotion. There is peace. There is no ignorance. There is knowledge. There is no passion. There is serenity. There is no chaos. There is harmony. There is no death. There is the Force. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of The Non-Prophets, recorded May 4th, or as known well amongst the nerdy, as Star Wars Day. And while it might be slightly blasphemous of this Trekkie to say, may the 4th be with you, and with my wonderful panel. How are we doing today?
You.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm scared after that.
And speaking of our panel, starting all the way on the far left of the screen, today we have someone who is so confused, he literally came to a Star Wars convention as a Star Trek red shirt, Teo El Ateo.
Happy Stargate Day, everyone, and may the mass times acceleration be with you all. Thank you for having me here in this awesome day. I love your happy face, Jason. Love it.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And next, we actually mirrored the Star Wars universe a little bit by having just one woman on. Someone voted most likely to fly the Kessel Run in a less period of space. Laura Magee. How are you doing?
And we're also mirroring Highlander too, then, because there can be only one.
There can be only one.
I'm so excited to be the one, though. I'm glad to be with you guys tonight.
Excellent. So this is a show where we discuss news and topics of the day with a skeptical and humanist perspective. And right off the bat, I do want to get a little bit serious here. Now, we here at Nonprofit Global Headquarters, we see what's going on with the Supreme Court. Most of us are angry. Most of us are confused. Very few of us are actually surprised. But we are not going to be talking about it this episode. We do have a Supreme Court article to explore a little bit later on, but it has nothing to do with what's been going on lately. What we are going to be doing is putting together an amazing panel next week to discuss what has happened and how we got here. And let me tell you, if that doesn't make you subscribe so you can, be alerted as to when it happens, I don't know what will. But definitely get subscribed because you will want to see that episode. It is truly going to be amazing and probably a little bit disturbing at the same time. But as far as for today's episode, for our first segment, we are going to be talking about shit, internet apologists say, where an internet preacher says that teachers who are grooming kids should be beheaded on live TV. Second segment is our Supreme Court, but this is where they are tackling a case about a football coach who is praying with his students that may or may not be compulsory. For our third segment, we look into, are we in the middle of an invisible COVID wave? And then for our final segment, it's a Florida man.
Yes, it is.
With a little bit of a twist, Florida man wants to ban the Bible following the state's efforts to remove books. So As a reminder, this show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the separation of religion and government and promoting positive atheism. As with all of our shows, links for today's topics and the news that we discuss are available in the description down below. And a reminder that if you want to come into the show prepared, you can check out the nonprofit's Facebook fan page every Friday night for a list of articles ahead of time. I was actually off all week, but I made sure that those articles got in for everyone else. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with our first segment. Laura, you're going to lead us off with shit internet apologists say.
Shit internet apologists say.
Okay, so I have with us today an article about new independent fundamentalist Baptist preacher Jason Graber. No relation to Jason Sherwood. So
I'm not sure that's how that works.
It totally is. This specimen of a human being holds the belief that any kind of education about LGBT sex education is grooming children and is showing them pornography. Although I can imagine by pornography, he means two guys in a relationship, holding hands, kissing, whatever, maybe. It's not really specified in the article, but it's implied by his lack of, actual pornography. Um, What's really shocking about this one isn't that it's a Christian out there that doesn't want public schools teaching us about any sort of other than a cisgender, same, opposite sex relationship. It's what he wants to do about it. So he is calling on the United States government to lay down their guns, pick up their swords, and hold public executions for any teacher who is teaching kids about sex education in any way that to him, from his very fundamentalist perspective, would be considered unsafe or grooming. And again, we're not talking about showing kids actual porn. We're talking about talking to kids about other relationships, male, female, male, male, like just different forms of genders, that kind of stuff. He's saying is grooming kids um, potentially to take up those quote unquote lifestyles. Not that that's what I believe it is. I believe it's just a part of who the person is. But so this is kind of appalling. Like the same people who are shouting about people in the Middle East, beheading people for the exact same reason are now calling for the exact same actions just under their version of God. So it's a bit ironic, it's a bit infuriating, but most of all to me it's frightening. It's downright scary that we have people in our country that are so passionate about this, and he's not joking. Watching the YouTube video that's linked inside the article, he's serious as a heart attack. So, what do you guys think about this? What were your initial thoughts?
Oof.
Well, my initial thought is, where is the investigation? Where is the investigation?
Right.
I mean, we've seen a lot of hate speech all over the place. We see it in Westboro Baptist Church, where they would hold up signs with such vile and vitriol, but they don't necessarily say, they say death to people. They don't say you should go out and then kill them. And so it's really, this is more of a direct threat. He's saying specific actions: behead people, kill them, murder them in the streets, execution. It's there has to be some kind of investigation. And when are we going to see it? Are they just going to go ahead and hide behind, religious freedoms? I'm just saying, what my God thinks I should be saying. I don't know. Teo, what do you think?
Yeah, no, this is a whole mess. I was going to say that I love articles written by Hemeth Mehta, and I like this, but for me, he messed up in the title. because the title was that a preacher says that teacher grooming kids should be beheaded on live TV. And for a moment I thought, oh, is this televangelist trying to talk against Catholic priests who have raped children? But then you read and realize that by grooming, he means teaching about LGBTQ acceptance. I mean, what the heck, man? What the heck is wrong with this guy? Imagine being a teacher and being told that you should be murdered just because you dare talking about equality. I have always said that I'm extremely scared of the USA turning into a theocracy. Guys, you scare me more and more every single episode in here.
You think you're scared. We're living it. So,
Right.
I mean, we're seeing it firsthand. I live, less than 30 miles away from the Capitol. So, again, yeah, it is pretty frightening. And I do think it's also ironic that this preacher is talking about grooming, because just like you said, Teo, is this really, this is about the Catholic priests who, are touching on the choir boys, or, that law in Tennessee that thankfully failed to advance, that would effectively remove the age limit for marriage. I'm sorry, but that is grooming. That is actual grooming. That is, that's not just saying, oh, I'm going to teach you that love exists and that people can go ahead and love any way that they want to. No, that's a way of saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and, talk to Bob down the street because I really like his daughter. That is so disgusting and disturbing. But that's what that law could have effectively done. How do you reconcile that with proper education? I don't know.
Well, so where's the outcry for that, right? He's outcrying, teaching kids in public schools about anything LGBT related, calling it even pornography, which I realize now is a very subjective term. But you don't see those same people calling an outcry, you know what I'm saying, for the same, because it comes from a purer place, right? That you can set a woman up to be successfully a wife in her Christian walk for the rest of her life at a very young age. It's a beautiful, pure thing, right? But teach your kids about, and I'm saying that way tongue in cheek for people who aren't getting it. But teach people that two men can love each other, and oh my God, let's just fall apart over and take the teacher, like, not take the teacher out who's even just talking about it and cut his head off. I
Yeah.
mean, it's horrible the amount of violence that and hate and vitriol that the LGBT community puts up with. But now you're talking about, like, even discussing it is now something that this gentleman is saying should be a crime. And
Yeah, he wants.
Yeah, this is
No, go
the
ahead.
worst that I've been seeing of it. Because I mean, we've talked about other hate preachers like Greg Locke and Kenneth Copeland, and they're absolutely disgusting. But none of them have come. They've skirted the line. They really have skirted the line. And when they talk about pornography in schools, one of the things that they try to bring up is the book Genderqueer.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, they're showing kids actually engaging in acts, and that is simply not true. There is one, because I didn't read the whole book, but I did go through it. It's 241 pages of graphic novel, essentially. And I just started reading it a couple of days ago, so it's like, yeah, I didn't get a chance to get all the way through it. But there was one panel where the author and one of their childhood friends were, they lived in a rural area where there wasn't any electricity, and then they didn't have internal plumbing. They had an outhouse, and it was terrible. So kids, being young kids, they would sometimes pee in the field, and the author drew that. The other thing that the author drew was a fantasy that Air had, and that's EIR. That's the pronouns that they're using. Air using. Uh, and that one was a little bit more graphic, but again, the drawing was of people of consent age, and then the final one was of the author going to a doctor's appointment where they were getting undressed. Those were the only three things, and this is not a book that was made for kids. It's very clear.
Right.
The art style could seem like that, but the book itself, the content, obviously was not.
Yeah,
I
well, and
think that
that is the inaccurate accusation. There is that the education is being geared toward children, that there's pornographic materials being geared toward children, and that's simply not true. Like you're sort of taking a bit of a piece from over here and a bit of a piece from over there, and you're shoving them all together, and you're presenting this package. And I can see sort of outrage. I can also see a lot of parents saying, well, at a certain age, especially if it's geared towards high schoolers, at a certain age, some level of realistic imagery is actually helpful, right? Like we do anatomy classes with teenage kids, and to actually show what the body looks like is absolutely appropriate and helpful. Um, so there's a lot of spinning going on here with what he's saying, and there's a lot of painting pictures. What really scares me about that isn't him and the fact that he's deliberately lying in order to bolster his case. It's his congregation that's hearing it, right? Or anybody on the freaking internet who's hearing it, honestly, because it's a YouTube video, right? It's recorded.
yeah,
So
people supporting
so
him.
yeah, people aren't gonna go and double check and look through the book and check the actual curriculums at these public schools that these teachers are teaching. They're just gonna get pissed off. And if there's even a whisper of gay or queer or like any kind of sex positive sex education, and it's just gonna be this huge outcry, right? Without any understanding of what's really going on.
No,
Absolutely.
this guy is definitely for hatred. Please, guys, check the article. Hemeth links actually a couple of tweets where he mentions how this, the name is Jason Graver, this hate preacher, straight up, he calls up for execution of anyone guilty of homosexuality, as if being gay was a crime. Can you imagine? Oh no, you discover your sexuality, you have to die. It's awful. And also there is another one when he talk about somebody saying that conservative Dave Rubin is a flaming sodomite and he and his partner should be immediately executed. Isn't I mean, he's even calling politicians to be murdered, and he's doing this publicly. He's openly saying that that they should be murdered, and based, as you said, in lies. I love what Hemet wrote here. Quoting, he went from claiming that teachers are showing pornographic images to kids, which is a lie, to saying they must be pedophiles, which is also a lie, to say they should be executed with a gun to the head, what the fuck, to saying we should publicly behead those teachers on live television, what the fuck, X2, two times. And yeah, it's awful, and as my good friend Colson said, it wouldn't be surprising if a member of his congregation went and committed acts of violence against anyone, either LGBTQ person or just a teacher, a regular teacher, not even a teacher who's talking about that, just a regular teacher for the crime of being a teacher. Because this rhetoric of this guy is dangerous. It's awful. Oh, guys, I'm so scared for you. And I think that this type of people is the reason why this type of activism that we are always doing is so important and is so necessary. And we have to talk about the harms of religions. I'm scared. That's it.
It's absolutely a step backwards in progress, in history, in human values and human rights. Like it is absolutely a step backwards just to have this kind of stuff be said and publicized and not have any sort of action against it. Like I'm not all about like limiting free speech, but I am definitely all about not promoting violence and calling for the harm or death of others. And that is absolutely what this is. Whether he says, oh, well, I meant the, government to do it. Doesn't matter. You're firing up a congregation of people with hate speech. And so my brain went straight to let's reverse the situation. If you had a queer community calling for the death of Christians, how fast would that community be silenced? And this is just an open-ended like rhetorical question to think about, but um when you turn the tables, would that behavior be even remotely tolerated? I would hope
Yeah,
it wouldn't be.
I mean, we sometimes joke about bringing the lions back and everything, but none of us are. If anybody said it in such a serious way, then yeah, they would point to, oh, look at the mean atheists. They hate us and they want to kill
So
us, and
violent,
that's
yeah.
yeah, they're incredibly violent. And are there atheists who are hateful and do think like that? Yes, I mean
Mhm.
there's everybody in every group. Um, but
Yeah.
as a whole, atheism doesn't say let's kill one group or another. They would rather, by and large, educate somebody so that they can get out of this kind of thinking, so that they can, remove their indoctrination. And it really doesn't take much effort. It's like, this is just, uh, one little hate preacher. What does that matter? You know, it, we had a guy who decided he wanted to listen to conspiracy theories about a pizza place down in Washington D.C. and
Right.
shot. Luckily he didn't do too much damage, but he brought his gun there, an AR-15, and he let off a couple of rounds demanding to see a basement that didn't even exist.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't take much imagination that one of his congregation could say, hey, wait a minute, I remember, you know Mrs. Smith, my kid's, a third grade teacher. They said some really odd stuff and I was really concerned about it. Why don't I just go up there and kill them
And behead them
and
publicly
behead them?
on yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And
And,
you know,
go
oh,
ahead,
I
Theo.
wanted to say there are three atheists in here. The three of us are activists. If I decided to go violent and say that somebody deserved to be killed, I'm totally sure that neither of you would support me. Most
No.
likely, no one on the ACA or any of the shows. Most likely, no one that I know that is an activist would support violence. But we
Right.
have this guy, and he has followers, and he has people actually listening to him. And something that Laura mentioned, there is no censorship. Do you remember, Laura, when I made this joke about how stupid it is that in the USA the C for caliente is cold and the H for helado is hot, and I got banned because of
Right.
that. And
Because C is cold and H is hot. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and this guy just goes and says that they should be murdering people, and nothing happens. And he has followers. I mean, what the heck is wrong? Ah,
They are protected by the word of God.
apparently.
Yeah. I want to delve in a little bit into the psychology of this. And I know it's not something that we can cover in the scope of this show, but it's more than just his psychology. It's almost like the social atmosphere and the social sort of thinking here. Like he's representing a larger group of people. He's not the only one that feels this way, clearly. Like
Right.
there's still a lot of hate speech out there, especially towards the queer community. And you have to really step back and think what kind of programming gets a man to be like this, like gets him to draw this conclusion. Someone who perhaps in any other situation would find that kind of behavior abhorrent if it was another religion doing it, if it was being done to his religion. If he was faced with something like that kind of a threat based on quote unquote who he is, like pick aspect A about his personhood because that's really what queer aspects are. It's like I have red hair and I'm queer. That's all it is. It's not like I Republican, Christian, Democrat, whatever. It's a different part of a person's personality, right? It's something that is inherent to who they are. And so take
Yeah.
take something inherent and say, I'm gonna kill all people with X trait and see how he feels about that. And so what happens in the minds of these people that suddenly, because they hate this group or are so uncomfortable with this group so much, it becomes um justifiable. Like it becomes okay, if not um something that they celebrate or are pushing.
The worst part is that we probably won't ever truly find out because
Right.
it would take somebody to really sit down with them and dive deep into who and what they are,
Mhm.
and they probably won't do that because they don't think there's anything wrong with them. um I think that's a good jumping off point for this. This is definitely something that, Hey Preachers have definitely been a fountain of content for the nonprofits. And, I guarantee you we're going to be covering another one at some other point. But what I would like to do at this point is I would like to thank both of our veteran viewers and our newer viewers for getting us to over the 10,000 subscriber count. And if you are watching us right now and you haven't subscribed yet, you can also join the channel, of course. But, you need to get on that, because once we got over that 10,000 subscriber mark, we were able to run fundraisers where 100% of the proceeds, go to the ACA. Google doesn't, take a cut of that in any way, shape, or form. And it just really helps us, put on, more content from all the shows that we do. So, definitely, we also want to, increase our numbers to challenge Dan over there at Truth Wanted. So, like, subscribe, ring that bell, so you always know when a new Nonprofits episode premieres. And are you aware that the atheist community of Austin has another YouTube channel? Because, well, actually, all of us should be aware of that by now. But you can check out the Atheist Experience Network, a channel where you can find all the ACA shows in podcast form. Subscribe at tiny.cc/AEN podcasts to listen to all of the episodes of the Nonprofits, the Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, Talk Heathen, that Truth Wanted, that we're coming after you, Dan. We really are. you just watch out. So definitely subscribe so that you do not miss a single episode. All right. So for our second segment, we are going to be going to the Supreme Court. No, again, not that one yet. That's next week, where the Supreme Court tackles a case about a praying football coach. And Teo, I think you wanted to lead us off on that one.
I mean, do I want to? I guess, yeah. I have nothing better to do in my time. Yeah, no, this one is for me because... Sorry? Well, this is a good one because I have talked about this before. I knew that that Joe Kennedy sounds familiar after 30 minutes researching. Yes, Joe Kennedy is short for Joseph Kennedy. Thank you, people. And yep, we were talking about this guy earlier, actually, when we talk about a decision for the school that decided that, yeah, they were not going to force prayer on kids anymore, but then they released kind of a statement. Well, what is this all about? This guy got fired and because he was forcing the students and the players of his team, because he's a coach, to pray. And he's trying to say that that his rights are being attacked, and now the Supreme Court is checking it. Please, guys, if you want more information, check the Non-Profits episode of April 16th. It's a good one. I was there, so you will love it. And yeah, the article in general is about this coach saying that forcing his student and players to pray is okay, and that he's been discriminated. This love that some Christians have about feeling that they have been attacked or persecuted because of because they think that free speech means being able to indoctrinate children into their religion without consequences. No, people, this is not like that. And you know what? Before I let you go, guys, one of the interesting things that I read in this article is that they mentioned many things. But one that is a current issue, they said, let me quote the article. I don't want to mess this up. Justice Samuel Alito, borrowing from the news, asked about protesting the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And what if the coach had, instead of praying, gone to the center of the field and all he did was to wave an Ukrainian flag? Would he have been disciplined? And I love the answer because it's yes, a lawyer for district school said, because the district doesn't want its event taking over for political speech. And this is something that this guy forgets, that he is not there to indoctrinate people, to give a speech. No, he's a coach. He's there to make his team win, and that's it. But apparently he doesn't understand that.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
so I do want to make one small little correction. Because the word forced does kind of cause a little bit of a misconception there. The term talked about in the article was coercion. And so what I want to draw a distinction in is because I almost think coercion is even worse than forced in a way, because it's slyer, it's trickier, it's harder to detect, and it's easier to do without even knowing that you're doing it. Like, he could be a hardcore, really determined Christian that thinks all he's doing is good and not even realizing where he could be misstepping here, and he could still be coercing people. So the term coercion really carries, for me, a lot more danger. It's really easy to say you can't force a person to do this, you need to stop. When he says, "Well, I'm just inviting them out onto the field to pray if they want to." I have a quote from the article that really illustrates exactly why that's not okay. The article says, "The coach determines who makes varsity and who gets playing time." He said, "The students know you have to stay in the good graces of the coach if you have those aspirations." So the kid that, like, slinks off after the game is like, "No, no, 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 I'm not into praying. I'm gonna hit the locker room." Um, that leaves a negative impression with the coach, and the kid now has to determine, do I stand up for my beliefs and my rights, or do I do whatever he's doing just to kind of move along with the group and make everybody happy and not stand out in any negative way?
yeah, absolutely. You know that he may not even realize what he's doing, saying, "Oh, well, they're good, players that they're praying with us and all that." But yeah, if he sees these kids that's like you said, oh, why am I going to put him in? He's just not going to perform as well because God's probably not on his side. There's a subconscious to that, where they're just going
Mhm.
to be.
Or it could be something as simple as he's not a team player. Like, look at him. He's like, I used to be called rebellious when I would disagree with something that my father believed, right? And I think that is a very easy road to take, is, "Oh, that's just a rebellious student. Oh, that kid is just rebellious." Yeah, so then maybe he's not a team player, right?
I
Or
just
he's not going to support. Oh,
I just had like a little problem from all aspects of this because yeah, he should be allowed to pray. I don't believe in what he believes, and
Mhm.
he should not be forcing or coercing any of his students to pray with him. And I like that the school did try to work with him. Some of the aspects I don't know if I was really comfortable with, like, oh well, they could go to coach's house after school. I'm like, I don't.
Mm.
That's a little sketchy there, but that's
And it
not
certainly doesn't remove coercion. Like, "Oh, everybody goes except Teddy and Chris," like, eh, it doesn't solve that
yeah.
problem.
right.
I have to agree with you guys, and I actually had the same thing about the awesome power of the coach that Laura mentioned. And according to what Jason is saying, the school actually told him that he has the freedom from religion, and the Constitution protects his quotation mark private religion expression, and he was told that he was able to pray quiet if he wanted, even if students could see him. He just was not allowed to make students pray with him. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, that because that was one of the points. They said, what if the coach had his own Bible study at home? And they said, okay, that's extracurricular, he's not forcing, students can go there. And you know what, I understand why Jason is worried about it, but I think that if students want to do that, if I was a parent, I wouldn't let my children go, because it could be a pedophile bringing children to his house. But I know, a pederast, whatever. But they could have that freedom, and that's separated from school. But yeah, then we have the thing: is it coercion? Is it not? Oh, it's hard to think this.
Why
Well, in
does it
terms
have
of
to
in terms of
be? Why does it have to be here at midfield where everybody can see. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. Does this public school now sponsor this guy's particular, God belief? What are we doing here? There's supposed to be a kind of separation. And,
Mhm.
you know, my son, Chris or Timmy is Jewish. Why are we praying to his God for that? It sets up so many bad scenarios. And the fact that he can't see that, the fact that, he's, oh yeah, no, I'm going to go, bring this guy to varsity and all that because they're praying with me. But no, it's disturbing.
Yeah, I think just like I did in the first episode or the first segment, flip it, make it somebody else. What if he was a Muslim coach going out there and praying at the end, or Hindu or any other religion other than Christianity, and the minority of the people? Because one of the arguments for him is, well, the majority of the parents are cool with it and they go out and pray with him, and the students go out and pray with him. That's great for the majority, but rules and rights are not there to protect the majority. They're there to protect those people who fall through the cracks and who are potentially oppressed by the majority. So, yes, we need to protect religious freedoms for religious expression. But when you
Ab-
start talking about representing a specific religion at a specific public event, at a specific public school, in a very specific way that he refused to change. When they asked him to do it more discreetly, he said, no, it has to be on the 50-yard line, right? Like, that's just his thing. That's what God is calling him to do. Now
It
you
has
have
to be
this
out in the open.
situation where it's a public call to that specific religion. So would he, that same individual, be okay with it if it was a different religion? Or if atheists ganged up there every end of game and said, something about how like God doesn't exist, let's celebrate our, like our own, personal perseverance is what made us win, and there's no God. And I mean, like it's all about the players and how hard they work, but there's no God. Like, just tying it back to religion every single time, it would be abhorrent to any of the attendees who were religious, right?
Or just a satanic
Um,
temple.
like,
Yeah,
I was just about to say, like, what
yeah.
happens with the Satanic Temple? Yeah, where they really rile religious people up just by showing them the same behavior, but from a different perspective, and it's completely contradicting. So I think we have a fine line to walk here. Like, a lot of my thoughts while reading this argument was, where are the fine lines? Where is a person allowed to have personal expression of religion? Not just personal belief. We can all agree that people should be able to believe what they want to believe. But now we're talking about expressing what they believe. Where's that line between expressing what they believe and creating a public display of like a call to a religion that can potentially be coercive and, in this case, maybe even dangerous, right? Because they were talking about how the people stormed down after the game and they all run out to the field and kids have gotten knocked over and people have gotten hurt. Um, so where is that line? Is it a line that we can actually draw?
And where's the line that would keep it out of the Supreme Court? I mean, this is an employment issue. Why is this going, through? You have to imagine all the different appeals processes that it went through when he could just find a job at a Christian school where it wouldn't have been a big
I
deal
mean, there
at
you
all.
go. Yeah.
There has to be some, and if they're able to see, oh, this is a good Christian coach. He's praying and, is going to do it before and after. And, during the mid halftime. There we go. I know
There you
sports
go.
ball.
There it is.
There we go.
I know
don't know
things with
sports
the
ball.
balls.
Yeah, no. It's just, I don't understand how it went to the Supreme Court when there are so many other things that, could have been heard. And, well, actually, maybe we don't need to have that happen because, again, that's happening next week.
Oh,
Yeah, and I think I don't wanna, like, spend too much time going through the article to try and find exactly where, but I'm pretty sure the article explains why it went to the Supreme Court, because at first it was denied. So, that
yeah.
is definitely something to look into and study further is, how do, things like this reach that high? What is it about this that makes it reach quite that high? Because that's something that we really need to know about as a public, like, when we're talking about public activism and stuff, is like, how do we have that same kind of sort of power and balance and narrative of like, well, these are our rights, and these, if those rights need to be heard by the Supreme Court, these same rights need to be heard as well, right?
it does seem that the Supreme Court can just take or break or even completely ignore cases whenever they want. That just bringing it to the Supreme Court doesn't guarantee that you will get there. Even going through all the different appeals process, going through the different appeals courts, there's still no guarantee that you'll get your day. No matter how passionate you are, we might not have our day in the Supreme Court if we really, if I was fired tomorrow because I'm an atheist, I don't know that I would have any recourse because, you're an atheist, but that's not religious discrimination because you don't have one.
You don't have a religion. You're not protected by religious discrimination.
Which I know you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, but I just want to summon my I'm afraid of the USA turning into a theocracy, because we see that the Supreme Court have their favorites. They are supporting this guy who shouldn't have been praying. The general issue that you will be talking about next week. And guys, your country really scared me, because I know that the countries in South America are going to start copying your Christian version of Pakistan that you are creating over there. And it's creepy as hell, for real.
And it's not just going to be Latin America. It's also going to be Europe. It's going to be parts of Asia. What we are doing here will have worldwide ramifications. And the sooner people realize that it's not just America first, that, we, like it or not, we have to be ambassadors, because, we're living, free and terms and conditions apply, obviously. But we, as much as the world hates us in some aspects, they also follow us in a lot of others, just like Teo said. But I think that's a good stopping point for this particular one. And so let's take a break in the conversation. And if you didn't tune into the other ACA shows last week, here's what you might have missed.
You have permission to get out of your head, to stop worrying about what a bullshit culture or a hypothetical future person or a bunch of 2,000-year-old Jewish poetry has to say about the subject. Enjoy your life.
This is a really good example. Two examples of two polar opposite abortion calls.
Yes.
You could choose the John way, or you could choose the right way to do these calls. We can be civil, or we can get our teeth out.
Atheists are here to ruin your fun or whatever. Like, that seems to be what
Jessica,
we end up with over and over. Oh my God, I hate fun. I famously hate fun. Thank you for bringing that up so I can talk about it now.
No
Fun
problem.
is terrible.
Stephen, I was taught a lot of stuff too when I was younger, and which was every part of my life I was younger than I am right now. And historically speaking,
back when you were Johnny P. Cherub.
The origin of life is irrelevant to whether or not we. The origin of life is irrelevant to what. Would you shut the up and listen to me, Jay? I'm answering your question, and then you won't be as ignorant as you were before.
I feel like we're talking to an evangelical Christian meme generator.
All right, and we are back. So for our third segment, we're asking the question, are we in the middle of an invisible COVID wave? And what does that even mean? Laura, you want to lead us off on that?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. It's an excellent question. Okay, so here's the deal. You have a lot of people now that are tired of the constant closing, opening, restrictions, non-restrictions, right? So you have a lot of people that are just staying home when they're sick. You have a lot of people who are getting at-home COVID tests. You have a lot of people who might even just be treating it like the cold or the flu and not staying home and also not getting COVID tests. You have this wider range of different behaviors now, whereas in the beginning you did have a lot of just straight to the hospital, straight to get COVID testing. You have a lot of testing sites closing down now that things are getting quiet. So it's still out there, but the numbers aren't really reflective of what they believe is the truth, right? Especially because of the at-home tests. And I had one recently that came out negative, and you have to go and you call a number or go to the website or whatever, and you can report your test results so that they can gather them. I don't know how many people do, but I'm gonna guess it's somewhere along the lines of not very many. So the question is, are we in the middle of another COVID wave, or is it really just dying down? Is it moving silently through the population, or is it really as low as we think it is? I have other questions, like what is the significance of that? And what do we need to do about it, or where can we take this conversation in a way that's actually helpful toward not producing a bigger, more visible outbreak, and definitely not having a silent outbreak that becomes a silent killer. So, what do you guys think?
Why don't you take
Uh,
this one, Teo?
Sure. Well, first I want to start relax a little bit and start with a joke that I've read, and it's not a good joke. It said, "Congratulations, USA, for avoiding a second COVID wave by making the first wave never ending." And I think that is what's happening in here, guys. You never
Mhm.
stop having COVID. Just people
Yeah.
stop ignoring all the death out there. Uh, some of you likely decided to get the vaccine, so now there are more immune systems out there able to bear, and you get sick and you survive. Uh,
Mhm.
Sadly, a lot of people aren't that lucky. And yeah, the thing of the invisible wave, as Laura mentioned, is this thing that you get sick, you don't report it, so the government has no idea about how many people are getting sick, how many people are dying out of this. Are they dying because of the flu? Are they dying because they are old? Are they dying because nobody said that they had COVID and they just died without going to the hospital? And this is, as you said, a silent killer. People probably keep dying in huge numbers, but the government doesn't know about it. Therefore, they don't inform it. Therefore, people have no idea. And there is also the pandemic fatigue. Do you know about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for people who don't know, the fatigue is that responsible people, we have been inside our houses 1 year and a half doing nothing, working from home, avoiding going outside, and then you see all this is irresponsible people just going without masks, not taking care of themselves, avoiding the vaccine. And you get tired because you're doing everything right, and you see this huge amount of idiots doing stupid stuff to destroy everything that you have been sacrificing yourself for. And you end up saying, "What the hell? If these idiots are not going to do anything, what good does it that I am here suffering?" And you say, "Screw it," and you get sick, and the disease continues, and there is not much to do there. It's very sad.
Absolutely. And to your point on that one, I take the train into work every day, and for the most part, people are wearing masks. Now, there are also plenty that don't. And right now where I'm at, masks are no longer mandatory on the train. They're not even really recommended. They're just, you can wear them, you cannot. No one really cares. But I still, like I said, I see a lot of people who choose not to, and they always have a particular look about them. They're always like very white conservative looking. I don't know if they actually are conservative, but it's really. Oh, in the county over that is very conservative, you won't find a single mask among anybody in the stores, walking down the street, anywhere. They got tired of it, and I feel that too. I'm tired of wearing my mask, but I still do. I still do. And any chance that I'm in a very enclosed space for an extended period of time, you know, um, what else you have to add?
Well, okay, so Teo brought up a really good point that we don't want to overshadow, and that's that as COVID has spread throughout the population, and as 67% of the people who are eligible, which is not enough, but it's still quite a bit, have gotten the COVID vaccines. So you have this sort of mix of nearing herd immunity. And so there is that part of the conversation of, well, maybe numbers are quiet because we do have a lot more people who are able to fight it off. And so I don't want to overshadow that. Like that would be a step in the right direction. It'd be really positive. It'd be good. The problem is the I don't know. And it does lead to a lot of speculation, which we have already done right here just now. Like we've done a lot of speculating, and I do want to make that clear. Like the problem isn't that the numbers are dire or the numbers are really horrifying. It's that there aren't the numbers. Like we just don't know. What we have is the numbers that are reported within hospitals to people who or from people who go and get tested. And so they're in the database, and that's just not happening in really high numbers, which could potentially be really good news. Um, so I came up with like sort of a list of questions. Like if we're seeing this lull now and we think that it could potentially be sort of an invisible COVID wave, what do we really have to think about or talk about? To me, it's are there rises in death tolls? What is the death toll? Can those deaths post death be linked to COVID? Like Teo was saying, maybe someone dies and there's no initial COVID diagnostic. Can they get that post death? I don't even know. I bet they could. Are there rises in hospital cases after what they suspect might be a silent wave? Like, is there sort of a lull and then a rush? Um, and then what is the impact to individuals and people on society? Lots of these questions. So my problem is those questions should be asked yesterday, right? If not right here, right now. Because if we're talking about, well, what is the potential for COVID moving undetected throughout a population and then maybe potentially causing worse deaths than is really necessary? Not that any deaths are necessary, but please bear with me on that one. What can we do to stop it, right? My answer is whether there's immunity or not, whether it's a silent, invisible COVID wave, or whether it's just not there, take precautions. Assume that a wave is possible. Assume that it's possible for us to not catch it in time. Assume it's possible for things to happen and get out of our control when it's too late, and see what you can do to mitigate it in the first place. That's kind of my big take on this. What do you guys think about that, Teo?
I would say that at least it's good to know that vaccines are working and that people are getting their immunity. And something interesting about the conspiracies and anti-vaxxers. I was talking on my show some weeks ago, about a guy in Australia who got 40 COVID vaccines in order to sell the permit.
40?
Yeah, he got 40 vaccines in order to sell the documentation that said, oh, this person is healthy and he can go out without a vaccine. I mean, without a problem. A pass, a card that they give you.
He was selling the card that said they were vaccinated.
Exactly. So he was selling this card to people who believe that the vaccine is deadly or terrible or is going to do something to you. And he got the vaccine 40 times, proving that even 40 times the dose is required is not going to do anything to you. It's so hilarious. And I think, I mean, it's terrible. It shouldn't happen. But this guy proved that the vaccine is harmless. Well, not for the virus, obviously. And I guess that at least if we have that type of examples, people can stop, being afraid of, this terrible vaccine that was developed so soon. And I think that part of the silent wave quotation mark, and according to the article, is because the vaccine is actually working, and people who get the vaccine, they don't get sick, or they don't die, or they just don't get sick. I don't really know how that works. I didn't find much information about it. But yeah, at least there is a good side to this, and at least vaccines are working, and people who got them, they are not getting sick, or they are surviving. That is something very important.
So no vaccine is 100%. And even with this particular vaccine, it's not, the chances of you getting sick are lessened. And if you do get sick, the symptoms are lessened. And the numbers, the effective numbers of the vaccine are amazingly high, even compared to the flu vaccine. And we are getting close to what is considered an endemic, which the flu is an endemic. Mm-hmm. It's something that, can be managed if we take certain precautions. And even our response to the flu year over year has been absolutely horrendous. I think it's getting better amongst some people, myself included. I used to never take the flu shot except when military required me to do it when I was in. But beyond that, I wouldn't take it. Now I'm like, nope. The way that I look at it is it's a rights versus responsibility, and I don't have the right to get somebody else sick. And I really wish other people would understand that they don't have the right to get me sick. But that's not how it really works. And Laura, you brought up something with the numbers, and because the United States is so fractured in their response to COVID, we will never really know the true numbers. News
Right.
outlets are saying that we are close to 1 million deaths. Other firms that are taking tally, they say we're already there. They're saying we're over 1 million deaths already. And I would be more apt to believe that we have passed 1 million, probably a little bit sooner than even those firms have tallied. Just because, again, we don't know. We don't know, how many of the deaths that happened in the past 2 years has been due to COVID, due to, whatever. We can't go back in time and, perform a COVID test on corpses, because that will have been long since passed. But we're still getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still going to continue getting sick. Whether it's COVID, whether it's flu, whether it's the cold, it doesn't matter. What we need to do is we just need to take the simplest of precautions. If I get the sniffles and I'm around coworkers, if I can't take the time off, I'm not wearing a mask. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is interesting because there's a lot of conversations about autonomy and personal choice, right? Whether pro, con, this, that, and what's interesting to me is that this one is such a vehement one, like when it comes to people not wanting to take precautions. And I just don't comprehend that as an empathetic person, because I really don't care if I feel good knowing how germs work, right? First of all, even if I am going to get incredibly sick from COVID, when I first get exposed, I'm not going to get sick for a few days at least, which means I'm a little incubator running around passing that virus to everybody until I start to see the symptoms and lock myself down. And that's true of anything: cold, flu, whatever, strep throat, right? That's why these things go around schools and daycares and work centers and stuff, because we don't know until we feel sick. And so we just pass things along. If it's as simple as wearing a mask, or as simple as, just kind of maintaining not so much time in large spaces, or large spaces with large amounts of people. Please spend a ton of time in large spaces, people, especially outdoors. But you know what I'm saying? Like the precautions are so mild and so few. And the vaccine, I don't know, maybe it is because I too have had 1.5 million shots having been in the military. So to me, they're just really not that big of a deal. I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but the COVID vaccine to me seems really like a very menial. I went, got poked, came home. Like it was fine, right? Um, so even if you had reason to not want to get that, all the other steps to mitigate are so simple. And so I wonder, when we have these arguments about autonomy and personal choice, and I should decide what, like, you don't decide to drive on the right hand side of the road, but that saves lives, right? You agree that that's
Well,
something you need to do. And those who don't, what, they get in trouble, they cause accidents, they
hopefully,
cause deaths.
hopefully they
you
get in
know?
trouble and don't cause deaths. But yeah, I've definitely
Yeah.
seen more than my fair share of people driving down the wrong side of the highway in my ever so wonderful state.
I'm gonna presume there's not
That's
a direct correlation between them and the
No,
people that are not taking COVID
no.
precautions.
Well,
let's hope
there
not.
could be. You
There
never
there
know. You never know, because we don't know
Now
the
let's go into
numbers.
speculation. Yeah, let's speculate, people. No, but that's where my mind goes, is that the empathy of, like, if I know that I can do something simple to help somebody else, and to stop the spread of something that could very easily get out of our control again, and that we've already seen has gotten out of our control, just Just do it. That's I get so confused why people make it such a big issue.
Wash your damn hands after you go to the bathroom. That shit's disgusting.
Duh, whether COVID exists or not.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing. Call me a weeaboo if you want, but I really like that part of Japanese culture where whenever you get sick, you wear a mask because it's not because you don't want to get sick, because you are already sick. So you avoid exactly you avoid spreading. Either you don't go to work or you avoid spreading the disease. And I mean, that's the minimum. How the heck we didn't do that for years before? And I hope that now people start doing that always, because we need it. Come on. And it's a very effective way to prevent getting others sick. I may be sick, but I don't want to make everybody sick. That's it, people. It's common sense.
SARS was absolutely devastating, for the Eastern world, and the entire culture got together and decided, no, we don't have the right to get others sick. I'm not saying that we have to be other countries, but maybe take a little bit more, a little bit of personal responsibility. Come on, party of personal responsibility. Get on it. All right. So again, I think that's a good stopping point for there. And you can also, we don't talk about this enough. I think we're starting to talk about it a little bit more, but you can become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. You can just click on that join button as you see on the screen right now. And it gives you access to special chat emojis. You get a nice little cool badge. In fact, if you look over to my name in chat over there, you'll probably see my nice, pretty, I think I'm up to orange right now. Future Jason will go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong. But also we have a brand new store. And I was lucky enough to get to announce it when it came out. And I'm lucky enough to show you the brand new special shirt for this month. That's an absolutely amazing flagship of the ACA shirt. Come on. You got to get like a dozen of them, right? Go to tiny.cc/merchaca to get your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs. And like I said, we got new items, beanies, phone cases, and we've got masks.
I love it.
You look awesome. Love it.
There we go. Got masks. I'm sure audio is hating me right now, but and like I said, we do have a special featured item every month, and that, like, for this month we got the flagship of the ACA shirt, so definitely get that, and check out the merch for the other shows as well. All right, so for our final segment tonight, we are talking about a Florida man. Oh boy.
I'm so excited.
But this is a Florida man with a little bit of a twist. It's not a well, some people might say he's a little crazy for suggesting this. He wants to ban the Bible for Florida state's efforts to remove other books, such as, the 54 math textbooks. But this comes to us from NPR by Matthew S. Schultz. And I guess what, turnabout is fair play. They want to ban, 54 textbooks. They want to ban living or oh shoot, I just Genderqueer was the book I mentioned earlier. Yeah, ban the Bible. It's full of sex. It's full of, incest. It's full of violence and genocide. So Chaz Stevens is an activist, and this is something that he does. He likes to kind of poke the bear in Florida, whenever there's some type of hyper religious thing. And with this Florida law, part of it allows parents to report materials that they deem is inappropriate for their children, whether it's, for sex, whether it's for demonic possession, whether it's for CRT, which is what those math books were getting banned for. Um, it's also weird because parents got into this partially because of the pandemic. With their kids staying home, they're finally paying attention to what their kids are doing, what their kids are learning, which you think, okay, great. Oh no, it's not, because they're like, you're learning that? That's evil. And
that's downright unbiblical.
It's certainly unbiblical.
You're learning biology. Oh.
So, yeah, before somebody says that this is mostly a joke, it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, because Chaz does not have kids himself, but he is saying that, hey, look, if you're banning for very similar cases, you got to look to the Bible, and we even put a question in the channel, as if you would read the book, or if you read the Bible to a young kid, would you do that? And the results of that are fairly mixed, and even certain atheists are saying absolutely, and every word of it. It's like, well, maybe not to young kids, but
depends on the age of the child, I would say.
It does depend on the age of the child, but Laura, what do you think?
Okay, so I had mixed feelings about this. I really applaud anybody who can articulately point out hypocrisy, who can say, well, here's fair game, especially when you have people like the Satanic Temple who are putting up, oh, if you're going to put up a Christian monument, we're going to put up a satanic monument, or something similar. So I do, on the one hand, see the benefit of playing their own game. On the other hand, I don't. Only because I don't think there should be such a big push for banning books in schools, period. And we should be fighting against the banning of the books, not saying, oh, you're going to ban a whole bunch of our books. Let's just throw the Bible in there, right? Let's just get that, put in there too. And then all is fair in love and war, and we're all happy. And yay, we did something good. No, we didn't, because those other books are still banned, right? So I get that he's trying to make a point. I like that he's trying to make a point. I'm just a little wishy-washy on whether or not his point is going to land. What kind of positive versus negative outcome it's going to have. I like that it's generating conversation, so I can't say that I dislike what he's doing or that I disagree with it. But I will say that I'm a little bit conflicted about it. Teo, what did you think? Did you have a specific point of view about it?
Yes, I like that I disagree with you, and this is going to be awesome, because I'm one of those who are saying, oh yeah, it's fair game. And I like what you mentioned, but I think that this is not only, oh, now we are even. I think that he's actually fighting the ban of the books. That's why I support this, and I feel that he's doing the same thing that the Satanic Temple does. Okay, you want to ban all these books because they have this special thing? Well, look at the Bible. So, should we ban the Bible? No. Then why are we going to ban these other books? At least I think, or I feel that is the point that he's trying to make, what he's trying to get to. So I could consider this Florida man finally a good Florida man, a hero.
A Florida man we can be proud of.
Yeah, because we were practicing the Find Your Birthday Florida Man news, and boy, it's interesting. So yeah, can we call him a hero? I don't know, maybe.
I mean, not all heroes. It does generate conversation, and not all heroes wear capes.
Do we know he doesn't wear a cape, though?
I don't know his entire life, so I can't really make that statement. You got a point there. I'm not really too concerned about banned books per se, mostly because my dad, even as a theist that he is, has taught me to always read a banned book. So one of the biggest ones that he definitely wanted me to read was Huck Finn, and Huck Finn has a lot of issues with it. A lot of issues. The biggest issue, obviously, is the one character's name of Jim. I won't say his first name. You can go to the library and pick it up yourself and find out what his first name is. And I would say that, yes, absolutely read a banned book, because the first thing you need to find out is, why is it banned? And I'm not going to tell you to go out and buy a banned book, and but definitely go to your library and pick one up and just go through it and find out and make your own decision as to why it's banned. Because knowledge, even if it's controversial, even if it's against the norm, is still knowledge, and how you deal with it is what really makes you more powerful.
I absolutely agree with everything you say, and I love seeing this push that on social media and in public spaces to do exactly that, to read banned books. There is really a public outcry about it. Like I haven't seen as many people in support of banning books, although I have seen them, as I've seen people against banning books. And so that in and of itself is really good. And I really want to applaud your dad for doing that. That's one thing I'm grateful about with my parents raising me too, is exactly the same thing. Be curious, ask questions, learn for yourself, go for it, read that banned book. I don't think all people's parents are like that. I don't think that all kids who need to have that sort of uh, broadening of their education. I don't know if they're going to get that with banning a whole bunch of books, because the public school would be their avenue to have that sort of broadening critical thinking. How do we analyze this? How do we talk about it? So rather than banning a book, putting it in its context and being willing to have a hard conversation about it, might be something that I would prefer. So it's a toss up, right? Banning the books generates more conversation. It brings more popularity to it. Like nothing sells Harry Potter than telling people not to read Harry Potter. So that's all good and fine. But I don't like the concept in and of itself of saying this isn't allowed. Saying that like a particular type of literature is not appropriate for a particular curriculum, that's fine. Saying like, "Oh, okay, kindergartners should not be reading 1984." Sure, like easy, right? It's when you say because these books have these specific messages that they can't be taught at all. That's where I take issue. And I like what the state's Democratic leader Lauren Book said. She said places like Russia and China, modern day examples of what happens when free thought and free speech are tightly restricted in all levels of society, including school. And we have to remember we're like the frogs in the pot of water. Like things don't happen overnight. Like boom, we're oppressed, right? They happen slowly over time as we lose our rights and we lose our ability to ask questions. And so I'm not sure it's an overall positive. I really think that in the long run it's a loss, not a win.
Actually, we were talking with other atheist activists earlier about this issue that is happening right now. And something
Mhm.
that a friend of mine said that it's still in my mind is banning of books has happened in the worst of times ever. It happened when they were burning people on the Dark Ages. It happened in Nazi Germany, and it's happening in the USA. And sorry, I'm bringing this down. And I know I have said this like 3 times today. This is going to be my fourth time, I guess. I am scared because the USA is going through a really dark time. And guys, I really hope I'm wrong. But I feel like you are going through, as Laura said, going those small steps that are going to take you to either a dictatorship, a theocracy. I don't know. I really hope I'm wrong. But I do feel that whatever that is happening right now, history is going to remember it in future, and it's not going to look good at all, and it's going to be awful. I really, really hope that I'm wrong, because once again, when people are banning books, it's because things are not right. Never, ever.
Welcome to the dystopian states of America, because we're not quite there yet, but it doesn't take much imagination to realize we can get there.
Well, and it's interesting because we have these movements and these actions, and we have people in government that are willing to support them. And like, okay, you have the guy calling for beheading. I'm not saying he has government support. Like, God, if I heard that, I would have said that earlier. So that's not what I'm saying. But you do have these people who are making traction, especially with stuff that we're going to talk about next week, stuff we've already talked about today. There's a lot going on. But at the same time, there's a lot of conversation and there's a lot of pushback and there's a lot of people now, like it's almost stoking fires in people as they realize that this is a big deal and that our country really is divided in terms of our ideology, not just our politics, but like what we believe and how we decide how we're going to treat people and how we're going to educate people. Basic fundamentals of human society are being questioned and challenged and talked about. And so I want to think that there's a silver lining. Like I want to think, I mean, trust me, it scares the hell out of me too. And I do wonder if we're just going quote unquote to hell in a handbasket. But I like all the activism that I'm seeing in response to these things and how people aren't just taking it quietly anymore. That it's actually a conversation, it's a fight. It has to be justified and rejustified and rejustified, which means with enough voting and enough public activism and social activism and political activism, that ground can eventually be regained. I have faith that it could be. It's just a matter of if we're willing to fight the fight or not. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I absolutely need to fight the fight. And honestly, I kind of wish we were going to hell in the handbasket, mostly because I don't believe hell exists. So therefore, yeah, go ahead, bring it on.
No, it's because all the coolest people are there.
Yeah, you do know that it still means that your country is going to, it's turning into, yeah, I'm going to quote Cynthia, it's turning into shit, and you shouldn't allow that. I mean, I'm being very, very depressive right now. I've said many times that I'm scared about the situation over there. But you know what? I agree with Laura that it's good to see activism. It's good to see people doing these things. And I think that we have to keep fighting, even if we feel that we are not doing much. We have to show that we cannot, just. We shouldn't give up. That's where I want to go. We must not give up, and we have to keep doing this. And all activists out there, please, people, talk. I don't want to call to action, but oh, come on, look at what is happening. And I will shut up with that, Laura.
No, you're absolutely fine there, Teo. But I do think that we should go ahead and wrap this show up in a nice little bow. And Laura, why don't you give us your final thoughts?
So my final thoughts might not be what you guys think. I want to go back around to the idea of banning the Bible in the first place. So I already gave my opinion on banning books in general, but let's talk about just the Bible. I don't think that the Bible should be banned in schools, nor do I think that any religious text should be banned in schools. In fact, I think they should be taught. I think when you teach religious pluralism and you teach mythology and you teach history and you teach religion within its historical context and where it came from and what it is that early teachers of that religion taught versus what they're taught today, compare and contrast, all of that stuff is good for critical thinking and none of it should be taboo where it's like, oh, we don't talk about Bruno. Okay? Like I think it's really, really essential that if I'm gonna be as passionate about not banning, books like the ones that they've been banning in terms of math books, I think I should be just as passionate about saying you shouldn't ban, the Bible.
Yeah, I have to agree with Laura in there. I always talk against the Bible, but I always say people read the Bible, realize what is written in here because it's important that you know that.
Yeah, if it's part of a world history curriculum, I have absolutely no problems with learning, the Bible, the Quran, the Torah,
Mhm.
going back to ancient Egypt, ancient Greece. Absolutely. Not like you do a deep dive in each and every last one of the religious texts because just trying to get through all the different translations of the Bible is just
Be
darn.
monumental. You can't do
Yeah,
that.
you can't do it. You absolutely can't do it. And I mean, if we're gonna, reference Encanto in any way, shape, or form, I prefer surface pressure, but that's just me. All right, so let's go ahead and just wrap this show up fully. And you can join our fans in our social media outlets. You can find most of the nonprofits hosts on the atheist community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/acd discord and on Facebook at tiny.cc/fbnp. And if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And we do value your feedback. Tell us what you like, what you don't like in the comments down below. Or you can email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. And so that's about it for today's show. Like I said, get yourself subscribed so you can definitely check out our large discussion next week. But other than that, for all of us here at the Nonprofits, we still want to wish you a May the 4th be with you, and we'll see you next week.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.